Welcome to this next episode of YouTube, where spring is, we call it the transitional season. That means one day it can feel like 75 degrees and sunny and the wolves are hot, and the next thing you know it's snowing. So that's kind of what's been going on here lately. We've had some colder weather. We started the pond because it was real warm, and then as soon as we got the pond started, it cooled off. And so we're seeing kind of a little bit of a return to some of that dominance that's typically triggered by colder weather. Nothing too serious, but you can see a little posturing there by Aiden and Denali up in the woods. And again, we notice those kind of things. Like I say, cold weather seems to just get them all excited and kind of trigger some things, whereas warm weather, they just get hot and mellow and lay down. So we're filming from the upper part of the enclosure right now, and you can see kind of a little bit of areas that they've been digging, a lot of forest cover up there, and certainly it is a place that the wolves spend a little bit more time in the summertime than they do in the winter. And again, that's something that is probably temperature related. It's much cooler, much shadier up there, and so when it gets a little warm, that's where they tend to retreat. So it's our job to try to make things stimulating and comfortable in the lower part of the exhibit, especially during the heat of the summer. So we'll do things like enclosure enrichment, or make sure that they have some ice cubes in the pond or something that encourages them to go in the pond and cool off and to keep them towards the front of the exhibit. But it is a challenge with wolves. And you can see even here on the day we're filming, it's actually probably not more than 40 degrees. But Denali's been running around a little bit, and he's starting to pant. This winter coat that they have is great for sub-zero weather, but when it gets above zero, they start finding that they need places to cool off and seek those upper enclosure areas that are a little bit more shaded. And that's essentially what you're seeing here. Other than that, Aiden and Denali are getting along quite well. Like I said, last week when we started to see the pond start to fill, they were playing together, and we've been noticing a little bit more social interaction, and staff have been commenting about how much calmer Aiden seems. He doesn't seem to be as possessive of both care staff, and certainly that's been good for Denali, who sometimes doesn't get the attention that Aiden gets because of that behavior of Aiden. But we're going to continue to see that as the spring approaches. We start seeing things like prolactin hormone kind of kicking in, and that prolactin is a nurturing hormone, and that kind of calms them a little bit. So it's a cycle of hormones as well as a seasonal change of temperature that helps calm them a little bit. And again, the pup's presence is probably going to be triggering even higher levels of prolactin just by the mere presence of the pups on site. We should start seeing that pick up. And so prolactin is going to probably peak probably into June and then kind of start waning into July. And we do the pup introduction usually on first week of August this year. But the behavioral introduction is set for August 6th. We have a few spots left on the behavioral team. We just posted that on the website. If you're interested, go and look under the program tab, and you'll see under seminars the wolf behavioral team postings are out, and we hope to get those teams set by the middle of April. Program applications are open till the end of April, but the sooner you get it in, the better. We'd like to get these teams set before we advance into May. So Grizzer did get a midweek meal. He usually eats out of a bowl, and we had one frozen chunk that he took and put on the ground, and he's going to continue to eat it. His stitches are actually still in the jaw where his tooth was removed, so that's been a little bit longer for dissolvable stitches than we're used to, but he had no problems with that. He had never had any real issues with that, and that's healing up nicely and doesn't seem to bother him at all. As a matter of fact, I think he, again, feels better with that tooth gone than he did with that issue that he had before. So we usually do try to feed him midweek. We did make the decision because it was a little bit colder. We had some nights where it was 10 degrees and 20-degree temperatures. So even though he got 2 beaver, and you see one of the beaver off on the side there, we decided to give him a little bit extra meat, and it's just something that we do for some of these older animals. And then typically what happens after they're done feeding is to mark, and so that's usually the behavior that we see. Now normally when we're feeding the bone dust skin, we do give it into a bowl, but we stepped out of the enclosure for a bit, and we didn't want him to mark on the bowl, so we took the bowl and put it back outside the gate, because we sometimes get Grizzer when he's done eating and full that he goes and heads and marks the food that's left in the bowl. Well, if we have something left over, we may want to share it with Shadow Malik or with Aiden and Denali, so we move the bowl out while we were outside doing some other activities, and then he's going to come over and check out the bowl and see if he can get a little bit more food out of it. So we, again, give pretty much Grizzer whatever he wants, and so you can see he's part of the Clean Plate Club. He ate all of his meat and is pretty good about eating, hand eating from the bowl. We work pretty hard on that when they're young pups, and the reason why we want to encourage them to be tolerant of eating out of the bowl is that we have times when they're not feeling very well, or we've got some other kind of issues going on that we want to make sure that we can hand feed the individual wolves without too much aggression, and so we encourage that from the time that they're very young. We did feed Shadow and Malik as well. We hand fed them from the bowl, and they actually ate together. They could have used a little bit more meat, but they certainly have enough had enough food in the enclosure as well. So what you see that from them after a feeding is definitely marking the same way that Grizzer did. Anywhere that there was meat present that they dropped or that they were feeding on, they're going to mark, and then Shadow's going to proceed to scrape the ground, show a little bit of dominance, and a little posturing between the two individuals. Again, that's just a little possessiveness. There was a little bit left in the bowl while we were filming, and Malik was going to go guard that a little bit. But notice how high Malik's tail is. And again, he's feeling very comfortable and not really testing Shadow, but definitely not backing off when Shadow approaches. And so they're actually fairly compatible. All this week we've been watching as the cooler temperatures did return. As we said, we left some straw in the den for them, and they've been sleeping together in the den. They're having really no issues getting along with each other. So one of the nice things about litter mates is that they, regardless of what goes on, they typically interact fairly well together. So that's one of the things that we noticed. The other thing is that, again, Shadow is howling quite a bit. So I'll let you listen to him howl. And you saw Malik howling there as well. We panned over to Malik so you can see he is engaged in howling as well. One of the other things we like to point out, and as a reminder to the pup care staff that are coming, animals do not like cameras in their faces. And that's Oscar responding to the kind of the perception that that camera is direct eye contact, and you saw a little aggressive bark there from Oscar. So again, we always want to try to be mindful of the wolves' behavioral interactions when we do film or when we do engage with them, and direct eye contact is a threat display, so we have to be very cautious about that. And we end this clip with Oscar. I don't know what he's doing now. He's found a pelvis and got to guard it. And the wolves had been howling, but he pretty much has been ignoring them and just kind of laying here with another part that he found out of the boneyard. So that's it for wolf care this week. And again, just a reminder, the behavioral team positions, there are very few positions left to fill, but we did post an application for anyone interested in joining us as we introduce the 2012 pups to Aiden and Denali. Thanks for watching.